great to be here. I don't venture out to the east that often, that far, because I live near the coast, so it took me nearly 3 hours to get here. But I'm very glad I am here. I'm crazy about windsurfing, and I have a hate-love relationship with plastic. So I've been windsurfing since I was 8 years old. Now, kids nowadays already surf when they're 4 years old, of course, but that's on the internet. I did this on a windsurfing board. I studied biology. You can see me here in Togo, in West Africa. And I'm doing research on intestinal parasites. So you can sort of imagine where my little pinky is in this little pig. I'm looking for parasites in his rectum and scraping them out. So, and as you can see, I have a plastic glove on. So if there's somebody that knows by experience that plastic also has very good properties, it's me. So back then, so this is 25 years ago, back then there was already a lot of pollution also in Togo. And, you know, plastic is a very everyday material nowadays. Plastic is everywhere. It's where we eat, it's where we live, it's where we sleep, it's what we eat from, it's what we drink from. Plastic is everywhere. It's an everyday material. It's such an everyday material that we tend to forget. We tend to forget that it was made or designed by chemists in laboratories. That we tend to forget that it's produced, mass-produced, in petrochemical plants all over the world with huge impacts. We tend to forget that all that plastic that is produced, and now just imagine yourself a scale, een weegschaal, a scale, if you put the total humanity, to all the people of the world on one end of the scale, and on the other end you put all the plastic we produce, in 1 year, the scale is in balance, every year. And we tend to forget that all that plastic being produced, all that chemical plastic, is not biodegraded by fungi, by bacteria, or by yeast. So everything, every product we put out, we produce, has to be handled with the utmost care. Because if it comes into the environment, it's like a Superman material that does not biodegrade. And I like this picture because you see Superman transforming, right? But his clothes are gone, and those clothes could be the additives added to the plastics. Plastics, of course, have all these properties to become flexible or transparent, and well, they sort of leak out of the plastic once they're in the ocean. And if you're just numbers, you know, up to 9 billion kilos end up in aquatic systems, so rivers, for instance. Last week we had last week this research came out that just in a bottle of water you already find 250,000 micro and nanoplastics, 250,000. 11th of January, so 2 weeks ago, I saw this article from in the endocrinology journal about how how do you say this? So it would cost $250 billion in the American health system just to take care of all the effects of plastic in our body. So that's it's been associated with obesity already. It's been associated with heart disease, for instance. So if you calculate all those costs, they come with this projected cost of $250 billion already in the USA. And it's expected to at least double by 2050, so within the next 25 years. And this is a material that by 2050 has only been used by us for disposable materials for packaging 100 years. Now, when I was on that beach in Togo, seeing that plastic waste. You know, of course, there was this idea, or the idea flashed through my mind that, you know, of course, this is not good. This is not good. But I don't think I came much further in my development of my ideas than that, because back then there was only one thing I was worried about, and that was if there was enough wind. Because there was one thing I did a lot, that was kite surfing. And I always went kite surfing with a friend of mine from Scheveningen to Zandvoort. We take our boards and our kite surf stuff, and we get into the train, go to Scheveningen, surf down. And it's 10 years ago that I started seeing that plastic wash up on the beaches. It had always been there, but now there was more attention in the media about it. I'd seen it before, of course, but now, and I thought, you know, I want to make a statement. I saw that plastic washing up, and I thought, I want to make a statement. And I guess, against better judgment, I thought, you know, let's make an artwork. Let's make an artwork. Let's make a board. I'll make a surfboard from that plastic waste, just like this stuff here, and just using an I-ring rod and a gas torch, I pressed it together, made this very heavy board. Now, normally you would carry your board underneath your arm, but this one was so heavy I sort of had to drag it over the sand. And the guys on the beach would laugh at me, you know, are you going to surf that? And yes, I wanted to make that statement. I wanted to surf all along the Dutch coast, from Belgium to Germany, to the first German island, Borkum, 450 kilometers, because I wanted to show that this is the amount, my board, that's the amount of plastic that washes up on our beach every month, every 250 meters. This amount of plastic. And I wanted to show by surfing from Belgium to Borkum, I passed 1,400 boards. So I started off in Knokke, and well, the board was far too heavy. Even my foot straps were made of a fishing rope, so my hands were open. I got injured, I had a fever, and I sort of washed ashore in Ameland after 3 days of kite surfing, not continually, but in stretches.
Off the waves at all?
Sorry?
Did you get the board in the air at all?
No, not really. It was too heavy. I sort of slammed on the board all the time, yeah. So, and later on it even broke in two, but that was weeks after when I tried to sort of continue the record attempt by going to Ameland and then surfing along. But then in front of Schiermonnikoog, the board snapped in two. Yeah, but I took both parts, of course, with me back home, not leaving it in the sea. So I ended up on the beach, and the only thing I had left or earned was my nickname, the Plastic Soup Surfer, the surfer surfing on plastic soup. And there's one thing I learned from that experience that, for me, of course, I learned all this about plastic, and this is in a time when there were no, the Plastic Soup Foundation had just been had just started, 10 years ago. You can't really imagine this, but 10 years ago there were no organizations working on plastic pollution, when now, of course, there's a lot of attention around it. Back then, that was not the case. And there's one thing I learned, that just awareness alone doesn't change anything. Because I came back to Leiden, and was there less litter? No, of course not. Nothing had changed. Awareness alone does not change anything, because we all know we should change. And this is not only talking about plastic, but climate change as well. We all wrestle with what we know we should do, and what we're supposed to do, and how we act. So awareness alone does not change anything. And the first time I really got to see that problem was not on our Dutch beaches, because, well, of course I found that plastic, but it was a year later. I went sailing with my family, and what we did, we sailed over the Baltic, Swedish and Norwegian coast, and what we did, every day we did a cleanup. Every day we did a cleanup on these small uninhabited islands. So you have millions, thousands of rocks. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's great. But everywhere you come, there's also that plastic. That's when I really started seeing the largeness of the problem. And also I had a net with me, which I did research for the NEOS, I did research. What we did was I had this net with me, and I clearly remember that the first time I put that net in the water, it's crystal clear water. I thought, I'm never going to find anything here. It was a huge effort I had to make a beam out, and I had to do a lot of things. After half an hour, I made the construction so I could just pull that net with me, that troll net. And I thought, what I'm doing all this effort for? And yet, every time I put that net into water, I'd find those small pieces of plastic in my net. After half an hour, every time half an hour. That really opened my eyes back then. And there was something else we sort of discovered. We discovered that a lot of the plastic which you find in Sweden and in the Norwegian coast is not from Sweden at all. It's from other countries. It's from the Netherlands. We found Dutch packaging. We even found Korean packaging. And I remember this one time, so normal day, rowed ashore, or throw the anchor out of in front of the boat, rowed ashore in a small boat, and then walking over this rocky island, and I see a crevice in between two rocks, and in that crevice I see 12 of these bottles. I get on my belly, I sort of scoop them out, and I make this photo for the Facebook. And there's one thing I notice, there's 12 bottles, but there's only 2 that still have a sleeve, and the 2 that still have a sleeve is a Dutch bottle, and an English bottle. And this is 2015, this is the time that we were discussing the abolishment of the deposit return scheme in the Netherlands. We wanted statiegeld, we wanted to abolish statiegeld in 2015. And I thought, what I want, and I was amazed because I see Dutch bottles washing up on the Swedish shore and they want to abolish it in the Netherlands. I mean, the big bottles, right? We didn't have it on the small bottles. When in the Netherlands, there's 100,000 of these bottles being littered each day. 100,000 on our streets, on our waterways, in our parks. 100,000 each year. 35 million each year. Over 35 million each year. And I thought, I want to do something about it. Now, there's a few things you can do, right? You can go up to Coca-Cola, organize a demonstration in front of Coca-Cola head office, or you can glue yourself to the Albert Heijn head office. But, the one thing I knew I could do was build a surfboard. So once again, I built a surfboard. If you take a photograph, you can see we made a documentary on this one as well. So if you see a button like that, you can take a photograph and you can see the photograph. But I built a surfboard from 60. Well, I asked a board shaper to build it because the last one I built, of course, was far too heavy. And this time I wanted to cross from Scheveningen to England, across the North Sea, so 200 kilometers. And that was the kickoff. That was the kickoff to a petition. So I started a petition for deposit return scheme. So this, and I thought, I could do that in 6 hours, easy. 6 hours, I'll be on the other side. The first thing that happened is I sailed into this ghost net, into this fishing net. Then the wind was, there was far too much wind, and by the time I actually saw the horizon, after 7 hours of kite surfing, the wind completely dropped. It just dropped, and I had to hold on to the escort boat. And of course, by then I didn't have a record anymore because I had to hold on to the record boat, and then wait for an hour, and then after an hour, I managed to surf the last part. And so I was 3 hours late, but there were still people waiting for me on the other side. But no record, of course, but it was not about the record, of course, it was about the petition. Because I wanted 40,000 signatures, that's what I wanted. Because I thought, well, if I have 40,000 signatures, you have you hold a target where you can ask questions in Parliament. 40,000. So I came back, I had 1,500. 1,500. Took me another half a year to collect 60,000 signatures. And it's always with campaigns, you need a deadline. So at a certain point there was a deadline, and my deadline, it was Valentine's Day 2017. So instead of bringing 60,000 sugar hearts or 60,000 signatures, I brought with me 60,000 like sugar hearts. 60,000 sugar hearts to give to the politicians because I wanted something from them. I wanted a signature from them because I've written my own resolution, mijn eigen motie. I've written it myself, and it read, I want 90% less littered plastic bottles within 3 years. 90% less littered plastic bottles within 3 years. Now everybody understands that to get 90% less, you need a system called deposit return, like statiegeld. But because that word was not in the resolution, all the politicians, also the VVD and the CDA, they signed my resolution. And 2 days later, I'm back in Parliament, and my resolution is by then called the Plastic Soup Surfer Resolution. And oh, here you see them sign it, and also the official paper they need to sign. Of course, this is only for the photograph. 2 days later, I come back, and that resolution became the basis for the policy in which we now have deposit return in the Netherlands on small plastic bottles, and later on also on cans. And this is what happened to littering within half an hour, within half a year. Sorry, within half a year. But this is a very, very, very short version of 4 years, because I also had to, because I thought, I've talked to these politicians, but it's the Coca-Colas that are pushing back, so I need to talk to Coca-Cola and Albert Heijn as well. So, I was into windsurfing or surfing by now. I thought I'll paddle down built a new surfboard, a subboard this time, paddle it down the Rhine from the source to sea to show that that problem does not start plastic pollution problem does not start at sea or in the river mouth or in the river. It starts on land, and we need solutions on land. So I collected debris from the river, and I brought that back with a bailiff, een gerechtsdeurwaarder. I went to all the CEOs of the big companies in the Netherlands, and those two things together, those made the policy possible. Of course, the battle isn't over. You always have people that dodge the policy. For instance, with very green claims like earth water, for instance. So just before deposit return was implemented, they came out saying, we are not going to use any plastic bottles anymore because they're not good for the environment. We are going to use drinking cartons, but these drinking cartons contain more plastic and more layers and are less. And it has all these green claims, right? It says like made from, well, whatever, it's fully. And there's only one reason they do this, of course. That is to evade deposit return scheme. Because a plastic bottle and also the inside of this is also plastic. A plastic bottle within a deposit return scheme is the highest, you get the highest recycling possible and little litter. 90% less litter.
Is that still allowed?
It is allowed, yeah, within the law it's allowed, but we do campaigns. So, you can't fight every battle. What you need to do is you need to unite. You have to fight together. So what we did to fight this is we developed an app, the Plastic Avenger app, and we asked people to take photographs of, for instance, these drinking cartons. We took 13,000 photographs of drinking cartons, not only earth water, but also Bar-le-Duc and all these other drinking cartons. And with that, we went to Parliament again to urge for a better deposit return law. And that's not the only thing we did. If you notice, there's no more plastic in fireworks. That's because in 2019 we did a campaign. It was our first campaign with the Plastic Avengers app. And what we did, we asked people to take photos of knetterballen, I don't know, crackling balls. You don't see them anymore. You don't see them anymore because they're banned. They were taken from the stores in 2019, straight away. This is what we, this is here, you just see all the photographs we take. And with those photographs, we collect the data and we go up to the politicians. But we also made, together with Dirk Groot, the Zwervenator, we also had Antaflu, which is now in wax paper wrappers, and big stores don't sell water balloons and plastic confetti anymore. And every time we went up to these CEOs and had them sign these covenants. So, and this is one of our last November. We made a report. We made a report on, because if you want to tackle plastic by at the source, of course you can go up. You can do it piece by piece, of course, like we did, litter for litter. But we thought we need a bigger vision, and we started taking photographs of trash cans, overflowing trash cans, because behind that is our vision on how to tackle plastic. We need this. It's going to get a bit complicated, so I'm going to go through this very fast. We're making this model at the moment, but the idea is, of course, that packaging has certain factors that makes it prone to littering. So there's a litter risk in every packaging, and that's what we are now working on. And we hope this is also going to be part of legislation. And because the point, of course, is there's just far too much trash. So what we're doing now, also part of this campaign, so everybody who already took a photograph of the Plastic Avengers app, we're taking photographs of food containers, loopdozen. We're taking photographs of all the packaging to-go food containers. Because last July we had the plastic tax. Maybe you remember, plastic tax does not really work because, well, if your packaging doesn't have any value, you might have paid for it, but if it doesn't have any value afterwards, you'll litter it anyway. So there's other ways we can do this. So what we're doing is taking photographs of loopdozen, and you can help us with that, with the Plastic Avengers app, and with that we're going to Parliament again because we want better plastic legislation. So that's what you can help me with. Do I still have time?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What I'd like to tell you, this is a bit of a sidestep. What I'd like to tell you is last summer I did this, a new campaign, and it all had to do with what I found in West Sweden. In West Sweden, remember, I found those 12 bottles, and I also found that English bottle. And since then, I always had the idea, I want to surf back that bottle I found in Sweden. I want to surf it back to London. I want to surf it back to London because, I want to talk to those politicians over there. And then I sort of, I put that back. The only thing I can do is take an iron rod and a gas burner and sort of press together some plastic. But if you want to windsurf 1,600 or 1,800 kilometers and through storms and through lulls and you need a board, you need a sturdy board. And then I didn't want to build it from plastic, so, sort of put it back in the drawer. But then last autumn, no, the autumn before that, the Applied University of Alkmaar, they called me up and they said, we have this material, mycelium, which is mushroom threads. Let's build a board with that. And I said, well, if you want to build a board with that, that's what he said. If you want to build a board with that, we're happy to do that for you. So that's when I thought, now I can build my board. Now I can build my board and I can surf from Oslo to London. Now this is the route I wanted to take. Last July, I started in Oslo. No wind, first 2 days, so I had 30 days, first 2 days, 3 days, no wind. I had to paddle 70 kilometers out of I didn't have anything with me because I had to travel light, so I didn't have a tent with me. I just slept underneath my sail like this. Sometimes on these rocks I found some crates which were on this rock, and just put my sleeping bag on that. And this is 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning. See how light it is. So this is very near to where I last time found those bottles I told you about. So this was the actual spot. I could find that. Of course, it was in my photograph, that data. So I knew this is where I wanted to go and see whether I could find another English bottle. And I surfed there, and well, lo and behold, first island, it wasn't even the island I looked for, I find this bottle. And I couldn't really make out on the sleeve what it was, but it said energy, and it was enough for me to see that it was a Lucozade bottle, so an English bottle. First bottle I find is actually an English bottle. So I put that in my bag. After that I had a lot more wind. Sometimes I went up to 30 kilometers an hour. And so I'd buy some food and then haul my board on the coast and sleep, and that way keep on surfing. Met a lot of people, and when you meet people, they always ask you a few questions. So where'd you sleep? Underneath my sail. Where'd you eat? Well, just buy it at the stores at the harbor. And they always ask you, what was the most dangerous thing you've done so far? They always go like, did you surf from Oslo? Unbelievable. On that board with did I show? Oh yeah, you saw the photo with the plastic bottles in there. The most dangerous thing still had to come. That was here at Rotterdam, one of the largest ports in the world, and I had to cross it. And I have this app with me to navigate. Of course, I have to take in account the wind and the currents. And I surf out. I slept in Monster. I slept in Monster behind a beach pavilion. Came out too late. Huge waves, a lot of wind, current, and I get stuck in front of the harbor. I have these huge ships going in and out. I sort of crossed the shipping lane, but then I get stuck. I get stuck at the green buoy, which says LF 66 Maas 1. Can you see it? That's where I get stuck. I get sucked in. Huge waves going up and down. On the one hand, I have these concrete blocks. The waves crashing on the concrete blocks. The current going in. The wind pushing me back, and I have to surf for 2.5 hours on one spot because I just can't. I can't head into the wind. I have to wait before the tide turns. For 2.5 hours, I just go up and down at the same spot because I can't make it out of there. And I manage to sort of surf around the Maasvlakte. I see this small beach, big wave catches me from behind, smashes me on the beach, rips my sail. My sword, the box of the sword comes out, breaks, and I'm shaking because I've been on that board for 3.5 hours. And the first thing I think, I want to call my wife. No reception because you're all the way out there. So I walk up this dune. I walk up the dune over there. I see the whole Maasvlakte beneath me. I see the petrochemical plants, and I'm thinking, what the fuck am I doing trying to return a plastic bottle? You have these, the industry just keeps on going. What am I doing? What am I trying to prove here? So I call my wife. She's very down to earth. She says, be careful. Just take it step by step, tide by tide. Just be careful. Step by step, you'll get there. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Step by step, do what you can do. So I wait for the tide to turn, walk back down the dune, screw in my sword box, tape the rip in my sail, get on the board, and step by step, day by day, tide by tide, tack by tack, I get to England. Back there you see, this is the river mouth of the Thames. Back all the way in the horizon, that's where the Thames really starts. That's where it begins. So this is the bay. And I'm waiting for the tide to turn to get on the board and do my last day of windsurfing. But before I do that, I just walk 200 meters and I see this trash can. See this trash can, and I sort of, what can I do? I sort of sort of push the trash towards the can, and then I noticed one thing. I noticed this bottle, the Lucozade bottle, exactly the same Lucozade bottle I found 1,500 kilometers. And I also take that, of course. So here, I also have which had drifted there, right from it was the proof I wanted. Next day, I surf into London. BBC covers it in the news, and I hand over the 2 bottles to the ministers with a letter, which signed by all the NGOs, the English NGOs, but also a letter from Coca-Cola, who was also at that same meeting. And I'll be in London in 2 weeks again, because they now have a new minister. And the idea is that 2025, they should have a deposit return scheme in England as well. But of course, there's still a lot of lobbying going on, and that's why I'm also going there. The whole story, of course, is, take it step by step. Take it step by step. Do what you can do. Don't become discouraged, because you can make a difference. Do what you can and what we must. Thank you. That's my story. A little promotion. I also wrote a book with my adventures. I have a small foundation. Everything you buy from me goes to the foundation, and well, it's in Dutch. Yeah, that's it. We have a podcast, and you can see the videos or the documentaries we made on YouTube, most of them.
Merijn, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're not only a surf hero, but also a plastic soup fighting hero. Merijn, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really impressive. I want a big hand for Merijn, of course.
Thank you.